Hello, this is Stella from England, and I'm here to show you my Woodland journal, which some of you in my group might recognise some of the things in it. So let's get straight in. I made the cover from snippets. I do a lot of quilting and I had lots of little bits left over, so I've sewn them all together and made a nice soft cover. Now, who recognises this picture? It's beautiful, isn't it? A stag. So for a woodland journal, I like the woodland animals, trees and leaves, and anything to do with nature. So this was just perfect. And thank you for the leaves as well. This journal, although it's a woodland journal, it's also a journal of witchcraft. And here is the witch who owns the journal. Not really, obviously. I found her picture on the internet. But it's this lovely frame, sets her off just right. And she is saying, this book is mine, mine alone. I've used tea-dyed paper and parchment paper, which I really like and I've used in my other journals. It comes very well for this sort of thing. So this page is tea-dyed parchment paper and I've used stamp to do the edges. Now, it gave me the idea to do a witchcraft journal because it's a great interest of mine, and also because I had a leaflet from the Museum of Witchcraft in Boscastle. It's their introductory leaflet, and I thought it would fit in just right, which it does. And it's a précis of what witchcraft is all about. So it goes into the history a little bit, and it also talks about the different things that go on. So the first page is what is witchcraft, and then it talks about the Museum of Witchcraft today and all the different things in there. They've got just about everything in there, all very interesting. I've used some cutouts from some old diaries I had. This one is talking about Imbolc, which is the early February Sabbat, which is all to do with the maiden. There are 3 entities in witchcraft. Everything's based on 3, and as much as the February maiden celebration is to do with the starting of life. Imbolc means in the belly, and that's celebrated on the 2nd of February, which later on the Christians took over as Candlemas. I've got some spells in the envelopes and various other things. This is an address to the evening star, and so I've typed out the different ones and put them in here. It's such a vast topic that you could really go on. I might do more journals about it because I've hardly touched the surface in this one. And there's a witch. You can have male witches as well as female ones making a spell over the cauldron. And I've got these lovely little things here from Angelica, and in this one I've put some of the poisonous herbs just to remind us that it's not all easy. And here we have the images of witchcraft. And devil worship and Satanism. Witches don't actually believe in the devil. It's a nature religion now as Wicca. It's called Wicca. This is the Wiccan read. I'll read you a little bit of it. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Live you must, and let to live. Fairly take and fairly give. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. To bind the spell well every time, let the spell be said in rhyme. And so it goes on. This page is about the hair and shape shifting. Witches believe in reincarnation, and also that when you die you take on the shape of a hare or some other animal. This is spells and charms, and I've made a little envelope here which you can put another spell in or whatever you want. And there's a deer. A lot of it is based around the woodland, because in olden times that's where people did live. They didn't live in towns as such, they were much more in tune to nature. And a lot of it, of course, was to do with healing. And the witch really had a bad press because she would have been the only one probably in their hamlet that knew about healing herbs. She certainly would have more knowledge than anybody else there. Sea witchcraft. Obviously the sailors needed a lot of help to keep them safe, and who would they go to? Probably the cunning woman or the cunning man in their hamlet. And a lot was to do with protection. All sorts of ways of that. Stringing things around your house, making spells to carry with you. And even today I have a protection spell in my car, which hopefully will ward off car crashes. Here is the history of the Museum of Witchcraft. And here we have another little spell. Once you're inside the magic circle, time stands still, so you have no need for clocks. You're in a protected space, and while you're there, literally time stands still. I'll do it later. Part of the Wiccan read, which is the rule: do what you will as long as it harms no one, is the basic rule. That's a little embossing to do with the wheel of the year. And this was a photograph I took of acorns. You can just see the acorn on an oak tree. This is the other world. See what a vast subject it is. You could do a journal on every single bit of it, really. Cursing and curses. You should never curse and use the dark arts, because it can come back on you 3 times as bad. These papers here I did in the beginning of the summer, and just used the inks. I used 2 inks, green and a straw coloured, on the wet parchment paper. Thank you, Angelica. Lovely card. showing fox, deer, red squirrel and a hedgehog. Lovely animals of the forest. And this page is about scrying and divination, fortune telling. And of course I've got herbs. That's thyme. It's another part of the Wiccan read. And the stag, or Herne the Hunter. There are lots of collections in the Witchcraft Museum, and it's a very fascinating place. I've got one or two videos on YouTube that you could look at if you're interested in this subject. I can put them on for you to have a look at, or you can look them up yourself. This is the Wheel of the Year, which is divided into 8 festivals, starting with Samhain, which is the Halloween, end of October one, and then there are the Esbats, which are the in-between festivals. So in here they've got Yule as the first one, that's Christmas to Christians, then Imbolc, then the equinox, Beltane, which is 1st of May, the summer solstice, Lammas, which is the first. Lammas is the loaf mass, the grain harvest. There are 3 harvests for the summertime. Lughnasadh is the second one, and Mabon. Stone circles and sacred sites. Butterflies there. And here the theme of this page was the witch's kitchen. I've got some thyme in there and the bluebell wood. Oh, the charge of the goddess. This is a fairy coin from the Tooth Fairy, if you believe in that one. Obviously the fairies play a large part in that kind of thing. And a picture of my tree, one of my trees in the garden. And here's a little cupboard. I just love these little pegs. So in the cupboard I've got a little sachet, and in the little sachet some fairy dust. And this is the contents of the witch's cupboard. Dried frog, dried bat, fairy dust, etc. Picture of the wood I drew. And there we go, the horned god. There is a god and a goddess in Wicca. The god is based on Pan, and represents the sun part of the year. The goddess is the moon. We're now passing into the darker side of the year, where the nights are drawing in and we're going in on ourselves. It's a time of learning, being quiet, expanding your knowledge, preparing for next year. Of course, traditionally every witch has a cat, and in the 1600s, if you had a cat, you were instantly suspected of being a witch, I think, whether you were or not. If you had a cat and a broom, if you were a widow, if you lived alone, and so on, you didn't stand a lot of chance of not being thought of as a witch. And of course, if they thought you were a witch, you put on the ducking stool, and that wasn't so good. Here are some more fairies. What a lovely picture. And a little house in the wood would have been ideal for a witch. Maybe this one. A lot of the pictures on the internet have been doctored, and I couldn't help have a good laugh when I was looking at them, because it was... Can you just imagine if you had a relative like that and someone came along and stuck a pointed hat on it? It's just a bit bizarre really, isn't it? But anyway, I suppose they did wear pointed hats, but I'm not so sure. Certainly the Welsh did. So here's a stag that I decoupaged onto the page. Thank you for these. I think Nina sent me the stag. That was on a serviette. And Angelica sent me that. And these butterflies are mine. I've got lots of little charms that dangle out of here, like the ones on my bracelet. It's the Tree of Life, and they hang from the centre of the signatures. That is some honesty seeds from a plant that's growing in my garden. And here's a protection spell. This time I've put it on white paper. I sprayed it. It's a willow spell to protect the family. Here's a cauldron with things going into it and coming out of it. Make a wish, sugar and spice, pea in a pod. Imagine. You have to imagine things when spell casting. You have to have intention, and then if you make a spell you have to make it rhyme. Should work better. And write it down, and then if you put it in your cauldron, when you light your cauldron, you put the spell in the cauldron, walk round 3 times thinking about the spell and wishing it to come true. I put this little thing in here as a kind of a scary thing behind the door. Spiders. And they are scary, because when I was in Tennessee I was bitten by a spider and I ended up in the emergency room with a black hole in my foot, so beware. I'm not afraid of spiders, and I'm not afraid of spiders, but I look at them very carefully now. And of course in England we don't have the sort of spiders that do you a great deal of harm, unless of course they come over in a banana boat or something. So there's a reminder that we all end up like that eventually. Witches believe that we go to the Summerland, which is the other world. And here's another spell. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed looking at it. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my work, and if you feel like leaving a nice comment, I'll be only too pleased to read it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.